Okay, do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Move. Second.
Motion made by Director Stewart, second by Vice President Webb to come out of closed session at 6:24. And public report on action taken in closed session, there's no reportable action. And this time we'll go ahead and move to our open session part of the meeting and public comments. And at this time, I will dispense with the reading of the statute and let the record show that we are opening the public comments. And so if anybody wishes to address the board on any non-agenda items, please approach the lectern. And being as there are no public comments, I will close public comments. Before we get to a new business, it's been requested that we move NB4 to the top of the new business items, and then we'll go NB1, 2, and 3 after that. Okay, minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move.
Motion made by Director Stewart, second by Vice President Webb. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Consent calendar. I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Yes. Motion approved. Second.
Motion was made by Vice President Webb, seconded by Director Glennon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. At this time, we'll go on to new business 4, wastewater treatment plant expansion. Steve Perez, General Manager, A&D.
These two items from AQUA Operations have to do with the plant expansion. The first portion of that for $21,535 and 56 cents is for an engineer to, from an operational standpoint, review the construction to avoid any items or anything that may come about from their perspective and head them off before we get to the end. And to ensure that the processes of the plant are considered at the onset rather at the commissioning of the plant at the end and find out that they did something wrong. But with us today is Mike Popichak, and I'd like to introduce him. He's sitting in the front row here. Mike is one of the principals of AQUA Operations and can add any, answer any of your questions that you might have about their charge in this engineering portion. So Mike, sure.
I assume this is where you want me?
Yep.
Mr. President, Board of Directors, staff, I get too excited about this stuff. I've been doing this for 51 years. I started when I was like 19. I'm a grade 5 operator. I got my grade 5 license when they first started back in 1975. I'm also certified in water and all that. I've done training at BC, 10 different community colleges, and I like what I do. I've done a lot of startups. One of the coolest one was up in Tulare when they built this $80 million, 12 MGD industrial waste treatment plant, which was an SBR plant. It's a sequential batch reactor. And they didn't have a lot of them out there, but we got it going, we got it started up. Was it easy? Well, no startup is easy. There's always some challenges to it. So we've done that. I could sit here and bore you all night with it, but I will tell you, this is my second stint here with Rosemont. We were here back when Mike Gilladome was still here. We came in, we did some training. We helped Mike pass his grade 3, which he did on the first try, which was good. He took the test, I didn't. I just helped prepare him for it. I think Ryan passed his grade 2 at the time. So we did that. Then we also help optimize the process. It's a BioLac process, and I'm going to tell you personally, I like the BioLac process. There's a lot of good ones out there, but Steve called us, we got to talking about it, we know Ryan, I know the players, I know Kennedy Jenks, and we're just gonna give you that, that oversight to where we can, let me back up. I also started up a plant for Marquez Brothers, cheese factory, and this plant was being built, and they brought me on board to help them out. And you talk about screw-ups, yeah, there was a big screw-up, because I kept talking to the young man, I said, wait a minute, we don't put this pipe here, we normally put it here. Oh, this is the way we do it. And I said, okay, whatever. And sure enough, Siemens came out, they had to change the pipe, but we caught it in time. So they were able to change it and make that adjustment. I don't know if we're gonna find that here. Kennedy Jenks is an excellent company, and I don't expect to have those problems, but we're gonna watch for them. And we have brought in, we have an engineer on our staff, Matt Wilbanks. And to begin with, we're just gonna be attending meetings once a month. That's what our contract says. We'll go in there and we'll be monitoring things, and we'll look at their startup plan, their commissioning plan. And, you know, we did do an evaluation. We looked at some issues there, asset management plans, and we're working with Brock on some of those things. So we're just another set of eyes and from an operational point of view. And I don't have any problem picking on engineers. They can design, but they don't operate. We have to make those screw-ups work. And so that's pretty. Are you an engineer? Okay.
No, he's in operations.
Yeah. So, yeah, we come in and look at that, and we try to make it as easy as possible. You know, the idea is to treat the water and treat it to a compliant level. So, I don't know if you have any questions or anything?
Well, I just, I want to welcome you on board to do this. I mean, it's very important during the plant startup and stuff. But are you also, I know it wasn't spelled in your scope of work, but would you be up to evaluating our system as it goes through this construction process to, you know, from the headworks to the chemical addition to your aeration system to the blowers, blah, 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 to kind of look for things to where we can maybe enhance the plant that's not in the construction part of it, but can make the operations more streamlined, more efficient, that we can, Steve can bring to the board, you know, as far as, you know, capital improvements or stuff, you know, to get in there and get this thing to when this thing is, goes online, that, you know, we've got this thing running like a top.
Geez, we didn't know it was gonna cost that much for energy, right? I mean, there was a little Native American reservation that I did some work on back in the early 90s, and they put in a brand new water treatment plant for this this reservation, and they had to pump it up from the river. They couldn't afford the power bill. It was like 200 foot down to pump it up the hill. So those are the things, yeah, we're gonna look at all that. We'll follow that along and see what we can do. And we'll make recommendations to Steve. We're not gonna tell the engineer what to do. We'll tell Steve, we'll talk to staff. And, you know, I've also learned that we're not gonna get perfect. It doesn't mean we're not gonna make progress and try to improve things, but does it have to be perfect? You know, I used to teach my classes, if your just requirements are 30-30, we always taught as operators to try to make it 2-2. But if it's gonna take more energy, it's gonna take a lot more cost to get it to 2-2. That's why it's a 28-28 okay, because you're in compliance. It doesn't leave you much room for error, I can tell you that. But yeah, we'll look at all that. We'll look at all that. So,
Well, thank you.
anything else?
Did you want to have him while he's up here cover B also? Item D?
Yes.
And that is the development of the plans and stuff, the other contract and what you'll be doing on that.
No, which one is that, Steve?
That's the contract for study B8. It's the development of the plans and programs and meet regulatory requirements.
Oh, process control plans.
Right.
Yes, we will be working on a process control plan. I believe your engineering firm is supposed to be putting that together, and we're gonna oversee that. We're definitely getting it translated so that, I would like to see the process control plan set up so that any one of you board members, if you want to go down there, you can take this plan, and this is how we operate the plant. It won't be specific SOPs, but at least you have an idea on how it works. I'll tell you what, last time we were here, 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, and Ryan Becker was out there. And I had been drilling him and training him and doing this, and there was some of the board members came out. I don't know if you were out there at that time or not, but you could tour the plant. And I'm sitting back in the corner and I'm listening to this guy talking. I thought it was me talking, but he had regurgitated everything he had learned. I'm talking about the nitrification, the denitrification of the plant. So he's got a good feel for it. We need to remind him. You know, it's been, you know, you took that plant out of service and just went back to the ponds. But yeah, we'll put together the process control plan and what to do, how to do it. I don't know if we'll be able to do all the SOPs that go along with it. I do like doing O&M manuals, and I think Kennedy Jenks was supposed to do an O&M manual. We're going to take a look at what they're, in detail, what they're supposed to do so that our responsibilities don't overlap. But we'll definitely take a look at it. I see a lot of these companies over the years, they do an O&M manual for you, and basically they just take a manufacturer's manual, stuff in a notebook, and tell you that's what it is. Where an O&M manual should be able to open up and say, how do I operate this plant? So if you look at that.
My thing that I've always, you know, with engineering firms and engineers, is that they like to build something to where they say it works as designed. But just because it works as designed, this is where I'm hoping you're gonna be able to say that it's gonna actually work. And that's the tweaking that needs to be done to take the design concept and make sure that it's gonna be work in the real world.
Some of my opportunities I had was, I managed the plant in Arvin back in '98. Excuse me, they built a new plant there. And I'm taking a look at these engineering calculations, and I'm gonna tell you, most people don't like math. Well, I love math. One of the things I do is sludge management plans. And I went through this, and I said, you know, you give me an aerobic digester. First of all, you don't give me any way to decant it. So they had to change that. And then I said, you know, we're not gonna have, you know, it's supposed to be in there for a certain amount of time before you go to the sludge drying bed to meet your 503 regulations. And I said, you know, we're not gonna be able to do that, it won't do it, well, here are the calculations. And they went back, they went to the engineering firm, and so they ended up putting in a gravity belt thickener, which helped thicken the sludge up, take out some of the water, and it helped. But they never give us enough sludge drying beds, they don't give us enough holding tanks, but it says on paper it'll work. Yeah, well, I have to make your numbers work, and you'd have a look at everything. But the numbers say it will. So I'm just glad that I got the experience, and I can tell them that, no, it won't work. I have to make your screw-ups operate. So that's what we're gonna do for you. We're gonna try to eliminate those. And it'll be fun.
And part of the task agreement is to update the SSMP, prepare the State Water Resources Control Board certification docs and ordinance, conduct a FOG program, put one together in ordinance, plus the printing and the mailing costs, septage receiving ordinance, and that may be we may not have to have that. Update sample plan to meet the new waste discharge requirement, to submit that to the regional board, stamped by a registered civil engineer. Draft and submit to the regional board under the registered civil engineer stamp the spill prevention and control plan, and draft an annual and quarterly self-monitoring report cover sheet for the use of as a template, including the table of contents for the attaching database, opened MRP for 19, the revisions, or the required revisions. So that's the task agreement. If something should change, I think the bottom line on this contract under B, which is in the $17,000 range, would adjust accordingly.
Could I ask you one favor?
What's that?
during the construction to make sure that we have sufficient sampling points?
Absolutely. Well, will we do the sampling plan too, I think?
Yeah, that's included in the task
Yeah, we're
agreement.
doing the sampling plan, so, yeah, we'll have that. Look, again, I don't mean to bore you, but when we took over the Lamont plant, okay, they were out of compliance. And I thought, I started doing the calculations, and it's a biolac plant, but it's a biolac pond, okay? And they were out of compliance, and I thought, something's not right here, because first of all, you had 5 days in their first aeration basin. And from there, it went to a second aeration basin. It was there for 5 days. And then from there, it went to 2 different ponds, and it was in your system for 75 days. And I said, there's no reason that we can't treat this wastewater and meet compliance in the 75-day period. So you talk about sampling. So what I did is I started taking, we took the headwork sampling, of course, and we took the sampling after 5 days. You know, we were in compliance after 5 days. We went over to pond, aeration basin number 2. We were in compliance after then. And I went out to each pond, but the final effluent, we weren't in compliance. Well, they have these solar bees. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They have some ponds over in Bakrsfield. And they work off of solar. And people think they're aerators. They're not. They're mixers. They put these mixers in. We've got a grant to put these mixers in for the blue-green algae out there because that can be toxic. Rocks out there. And they had drifted too close to the outlet. We pulled them back, and they started meeting. They were down in the 2s and 3s, and they had to meet 33. So those are things, you know, you talk about sampling points. Yeah, we'll go through and hit each sampling point. And I will tell you, I've run into operators that don't like me because I ask questions. And I really don't care if you like me or not. I'm going to be able to do a job. I'm going to optimize your plant. I'm going to tell you right now, I enjoy working with this man right here. It excites me that when I get somebody who wants to hear what I have to say and wants to follow along, we're going to look at some issues. And not only are you paying us to do that, look, if my business partner would hear it, he'd go crazy. But I provide a service too that we don't charge you for. And you've got some brand new collection system workers. Well, I meant to bring those to you, but you can get online, you can print out from the CWA, the California Water Environment Association, some programs they already have put together. And I'm going to recommend, we're going to find out what the schedule are, we're going to recommend sending your people to that. And it's inexpensive training. You spend more for overnight lodging than you do for the training. But the handouts they've got, the books that they've got, we'll get, you know, I'll help Brock in getting them certified so that people are trained and they don't make mistakes.
Just a professional question from you dealing with the biolac system. What is your best guesstimate that if this plant goes upside down, well not if, but when it goes upside down, how long do you think on the outside, the worst case scenario to get it back up and running?
You know what? This work I did for Marquez Brothers, I knew the operators, we had a little bit of a language barrier there. I'm white, I speak English. A lot of employees they had there were Hispanic and they spoke Spanish, and there was a little bit of a language barrier there. So I knew they weren't quite ready to take it over themselves, but you know, we're paying you too much money, you're done. And I thought, well, they'll be calling me back. Sure enough, I'm on a golf course up in Utah, and I get a phone call on a Saturday, and hey, can you be here Monday? Our plant went upside down. That took us, we brought in truckloads of biosolids, activated sludge from one of the local plants, about 10 loads, and we got it going again. And it took about 2 to 3 weeks to get it going. I don't expect that. We're going to try to put in a lot of checkpoints to where that doesn't happen. What might happen or could happen is if we get, you know, that's why one thing we want to talk about these septic collars. You know, we don't always know what they're bringing us, and that's something where we got to take a close look at that. And I think you make a lot of money taking that in, right?
We make some money, but I believe that the consideration of the cost of a plant going upside down,
Right.
capacity, cost of personnel to run that function, because that function will change, because we're going to have to stay right on top of it.
Right.
I think all those are considerations for what we do there.
You're absolutely right. So if somebody were to dump something on you, it could go in and it'd be toxic to the bugs and kill the bugs off. I would say, you give me 3 weeks, we'll bring in some more bugs and we'll get it going. We'll create the environment. I always require the operators, and I think Ryan was doing it for a while. You know, we do an FM ratio, food to microorganism. You know, you can see I haven't missed too many meals, right? And if I eat too much, it gets bigger. But that's the same thing with the bugs. If we don't have enough bugs in there to treat the food coming in, we're not gonna meet compliance. And so we're gonna do the balance on that, and Ryan knows how to do that. We'll do the FMs, somebody asked me one time, well, what FM do you want? And I love going around the block with engineers on this. Well, it says in the book it should be this. I said, I don't care what the book says. You know what determines where we operate our plant? Is when we look at our final effluent. Where do we get the best quality effluent? Then we go back and think, okay, what was the MCRT? What is the SBI? What is the FM ratio? What is the DOs? Does it all work right? This will help us over here at the end of it. So.
And so you're gonna help us develop an SS&P, an industrial waste program, a FOG program, fats, oils, and grease.
Absolutely.
Are you gonna help us determine inspection schedules, allow the discharge limits for the industrial users?
I don't have the contract in front of me, I don't have exactly, I'm gonna tell you we're gonna help you with all that, and as long as I'm the project manager on it, you're gonna get more for your buck than what you bargained for. Again, I keep throwing my partner under the bus, because somebody's gotta be watching the checkbook, right? So, but, another example on the FOG program. What is FOG?
Fats, oils, and grease.
Fats, oils, and grease. And I'm in Arvin, I've been there about a year, and operators can be lazy. And I'm at the headworks one day, and we got a big chunk of grease, lard. My mom used to get the lard that we used to deep fry with back in the day, and that's exactly what it looked like. But these things, and the side of it was round, so I knew it came out of a 12-inch pipe. So I asked my operator there, it was Tim, I said, hey Tim, see this? And oh yeah, something broke loose someplace. Well, let me tell you, if a chunk that size broke loose, there's more out there.
Oh, you better be checking.
Oh, and of course, he didn't like it because it was gonna have an extra work, and what do? You just go back to the manuals as they're coming to the plant. We went down, we found out, oh, there's some here. And then we found two where the two pipes came together and said, oh, it's coming from this direction. And it was about a quarter of a mile. And I said, and you're telling me you're cleaning this on a regular basis? Well, we got our jetter out. We ended up taking out, 2.5 yard dumpsters? I was down there with a pitchfork filling this stuff out. That's how bad it was. So if we don't take care of it, that's what you're gonna end up with. And that's why we need to go to the source and get the fats, oils, and grease program going and do the industrial waste inspections. And I'm gonna make some recommendations that we get these guys certified as industrial waste inspectors. And we teach them, when we get this program, we'll go out and take a look at it. And if your restaurants don't have grease traps in them, do we monitor that or is that county?
County Health.
Well, we need to get the information from them because that's gotta be monitored. 100%. That's the way it was in Arvin. I'm outside one of the tortilla factories in there. We open the manhole and you can just see the grease coming out. And they're doing a real good job, aren't they? So, but whatever we do ahead of time to keep it from getting to the plant is gonna help the plant operate a lot better.
Do you hold any CWA certs?
Who asked me that? I'm sorry. I used to be certified in industrial waste. The main reason I took the test is so I could train the people who were gonna take it. I'm not certified there now. I could be, but I don't have a reason for it. At one time, I was a mechanical technologist certified, grade 4. And, they require too much extra training, and I just wasn't gonna do it. So I've had these, I've written some of the manuals. I used to write the state test up in Sacramento. So I did that. I am going to take one more test. There's a new certification out there called advanced water treatment. And you have to have a grade 3 wastewater or a grade 3 water. And it's above and beyond. I mean, we're getting into things, nanofiltration, ultrafiltration, RO units. I mean, this water's coming out So there's a new certification for that, and I'll be taking that test. Do I need to? Probably not, but we are getting more involved with this. Do a lot of work with WM Lyles. They're gonna be building a plant over in Camarillo, and we're gonna help do the commissioning. It just looks better if you've got that license to go along with it. You know. Very good. I bored you enough?
Oh, you didn't bore me.
Not me either. Cool. Probably the audience is ready to move on, so. We're done?
We're good.
I'm gonna head back to Bakersfield. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to
Thank you.
working with your staff and having some
Might
fun.
wait until they vote on it, Mike.
Okay.
All right, do I, NB4, A for $21,535.56 and B for $17,800. Do I have a motion to approve A and B?
Moved. Second.
Motion made by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Glennon. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to new business 1, adopt resolution number 2020-1, authorizing the release of unclaimed monies pursuant to sections 550-556 of the Government Code of the State of California. And Brad was on the agenda, but he's not here, so I guess that's you, was that?
I have a question. How have we, past 2012, have we gone back past that and already caught those up?
So, Brad
How
briefed me
can this
on,
happen? It blows my mind.
so Brad briefed me on this, and unfortunately he wasn't able to attend tonight, but what he told me was that, we're caught up to 2016,
Oh, okay.
and so you have to wait 3 years before you adjust them.
What if somebody in 2013 already tries to cash that check 5 years old?
They won't cash it.
They
I mean,
won't cash, but
based
then-
on,
Did they come and complain to us, or?
they can't come and complain to us, but we follow, so the board had previously adopted a mistreatment policy that basically said that instead of us redeeming the money to the state, we would keep it because we have that ability to, so long as we follow these processes, which we had, one of the obligations was we had to notify the customer that there was an outstanding check that hadn't been cashed, and if they wanted to request it, that they had to fill out a document and submit it to us by a certain time. We even had to publish in the newspaper a list of all of those individuals and how much money they had and where to go to redeem it. So we've gone through that whole process. We did have several, I don't know the exact number, that did request those monies. In the agenda, there is an attachment that shows all of the individuals that did not.
$20,000.
Yeah, so.
Have we done this before and I was asleep?
So Brad went back and he hadn't seen it done, and so he's making an assumption that either A, it hasn't been done in a very long
I
time,
can't
or it had
remember.
never been done. Because we didn't even have a policy
Okay.
that
So could there
guided us on
be,
how to do this.
could there be more than $20,000 in checks out there that were never cashed?
Prior to 2016, no.
No? Okay.
But we
I don't remember
will,
ever doing this.
but we will be bringing this back to you on an annual basis, because obviously it's 3 years back. So as we move forward, you'll go through this process. But before you is a resolution authorizing the release of the unclaimed monies pursuant to the government code. And if you have any additional questions that I may not be able to answer, we can direct those questions to Brad.
I make the motion that we approve NB1.
Okay. Motion made by Director Glennon, seconded by Vice President Webb. It's a resolution, so it's a roll call vote.
President Greg Wood,
Yes?
Vice President Rick Webb,
Yes.
Director Gregory Washington,
Yes.
Director Byron Glennon. Director Ben Stewart.
Yes.
And NB1 passes on a 5-0 vote. Okay, NB2, adopt adopt resolution number 2020-2, amending policy number 4055 and 4060 of the administrative handbook. And that would be Mr. Perez.
This has to do with the rotation of officers or board members rotation. And the change basically is to allow or change to a 2-year cycle. And that's the change in the administrative handbook. Instead of every year, it will be 2 years.
All right. Any discussion?
This was, the way we used to have it. And my understanding is, we were told that it couldn't be done that way, it had to be done yearly. But I believe you've checked into it, and that isn't necessarily true. That was false information that we were given when we came out of this kind of a system and went to a yearly system. And I like this much better than doing it every year. I think every 2 years when the election happens is a good time to
Do the transition.
do the transition of the board.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2020-2?
Real quick, when will this be effective?
Immediate.
Immediately? Okay.
Is it need a motion, please?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Director Glennon, seconded by Director Washington. It's a roll call vote.
President Rick Wood,
Yes?
Vice President Rick Webb,
No.
Director Gregory Washington,
Yes.
Director Byron Glennon.
Yes.
Director Ben Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, NB3, assignment of committees. We've had some changes in the committee structure. Committee assignments, can you give these to Steve, and does that need a copy? In 2019, we had the following ad hoc committees: water acquisition, water banking, grants, emergency preparedness, water sewer, and water reclamation. And the water sewer, or basically sewer committee, and the water, it's taken on too much of a scope of work to remain ad hoc committees, so they were converted in 2020 to a standing committee, because they've just got, it's not gonna end anytime soon. It doesn't have a sunset in there. And so this year in 2020, these are the committees that we have is engineering, finance, policy, personnel, government relations, water, and sewer. And in the ad hoc committees will be grants, emergency preparedness, water acquisition, water banking, and water reclamation is still going to be on there for the fact that we have been making a lot of strides in that, and I anticipate that being wrapped up this year as far as what we're going to be doing with water reclamation. And then Park and Recreation is going from a standing committee to an ad hoc committee, and it's still a volunteer basis to work on park and recreational ideas and possibilities for this district like we discussed last year. And so the assignment of directors is pretty much a mirror of what they were in 2019. For the standing committee's engineer is going to be myself and Byron. Finance is going to be Director Webb and Director Glennon. Policy is going to be Director Stewart and Director Webb. Personnel is going to be Director Stewart and myself. Government Relations is going to be Director Webb and Director Washington. Water is going to be Director Glennon and Director Webb with Director Washington as an alternate. And Sewer is going to be Director Stewart and myself. On ad hoc, grants is going to be Director Washington and Director Stewart. Emergency preparedness is going to be Director Webb and myself. Water acquisition is going to be Director Webb and Director Glennon with Director Washington as an alternate. Water banking is going to be Director Glennon and Director Washington. Water reclamation is going to be myself and Director Webb. And the park and recreation volunteer is going to remain myself and Director Webb from last year. And if there's not any opposition from the rest of the board, that's the committee assignments that I would like to place in submission.
I make a motion that we accept the meetings as presented by the president of the board.
Okay, so this way we will have a motion from Vice President Webb, a second by Director Glennon. All in favor of assignment of committees? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And with this, we will move on to Director reports, comments, and future agenda items. And we'll start with Vice President Webb.
Well, I hope you all had a good new year. First of all, folks, I'd like to extend a first apology to the board and the staff here. In a couple meetings I could not attend. I had issues that came up at work that precluded me from being here. But this is going to be a good year for us. Based on the presentation from Mr. Popichak and all, got a lot of good things going on. So let's keep moving forward. Brock, I'd like to extend a thank you. We've had some dynamics around the district, and you've risen to the occasion, which I think we all know you could, you would, and you have our support. Lizette, in your new position, I know there's a lot of dynamics there that are going to help you grow and develop. And Ms. V, you better stop bullying people. That's what I'm going to tell you there. But I think we got a good team in place to move forward, and let's all have a good new year. Thank you.
I don't have anything tonight.
Sure.
I pick on the Antelope Valley Press regularly. If you get the paper, you know they've got this nice color now, and their price is going up. But part of the nice color and the price going up was a picture that we saw of our water reclamation plant. We need to start saying that instead of sewer treatment plant, water reclamation plant. Front page a couple days ago, and the money we put out for the company for advertising, we can see their pictures already being used. Good article again, summed up everything that anybody needs to know in Roseman about the water reclamation plant.
Who wrote that article?
I submitted the article, but they didn't give me any money.
It was a good article. Thank you.
I would just like to say Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you for coming out. We had a busy 2019, and hoping that 2020, even though it's going to be busy, will be a little more slower paced, hopefully, but I doubt it. But looking forward to all the things that we have going on. We have a fantastic staff. and we have a fantastic board carry out the concerns of this district, and I look forward to lots of good things happening. And with that, General Counsel update,
No further report.
General Manager update.
Well, I'd like to also say Happy New Year to everybody, and it was a challenging year. A lot of things happened, and a lot of changes were made. Challenges, I don't think any of us would be here if there wasn't a challenge. So we still have challenges in front of us. Some of those are some of the legislation that has been passed, the recent legislation, and we're going to be challenged with how we address some of the legislation in this upcoming year. And I just want the board to know that the staff is engaged in addressing the potential impacts as well as real impacts. And we'll be bringing various pieces of information forward to the board for your consideration. Some of those will be in workshop form and for more in-depth explanation on those. Well, as you're aware, we've purchased 1,180 acre feet of carryover water. Everything will be probably penciled by the end of the month, and our account for 1,180 acre feet of water probably won't be added to until about March or April. The agreement between the two parties in the sale and the water master have to be consulted through this entire process. They approve the sale. Once it's approved, it then goes into our inventory. So that's in the works, and we're also at that same time going to begin the negotiations for the purchase of some water rights. And we're hopeful to get that on a installment plan type issue. What our goal is, at your board's direction, is to try to acquire through our water acquisitions that won't impact the ratepayers, or if it does, at the very least. It looks like if we can put it together the way I want to put it together, and we've had preliminary discussions, we may be able to do this without any impact to the ratepayers at all. So, the water reclamation plant is progressing rather well. I was out there a couple of days ago, did a trip around the district, and when I got out there, I had 7 scrapers running to and fro. They were doing the old basin 17, pond 17, and they were cutting in the overflow, and they had a couple dozers working, they had an excavator working. I was on the phone calling to see if we could get Tom or Dave out there to get this activity filmed, because that's the kind of thing that I want to produce for the community. And I know your board wants that, so the community can see the actual construction as it's occurring.
Is that why your truck was like that?
Yeah. The strategic plan, I've been telling you that it's almost done, it's almost done, it's almost done. Strategic plan has been completed. It's still in draft form until I have a time to brief the board on potential costs and the like, and then we'll get it finalized and put it in final form. All the water pumped in 2019 came to 2,362 acre feet. So that was our pumping this past year. And the average over the time period since we were required to cut back, which was a 5-year period now, the average water use has been 2,359 acre feet. For the board's information to keep in their mind when we start focusing on how much water we need to serve our community, we'll look at that as an average of what we need and then add some to that, so we have a good buffer on it. So if we obtain 2,600 acre feet in our district, in our attempt, we can then start looking at getting additional water after that, because we will have secured our need. Then we can get the extra for growth and different things from there. And I think we can do that. Should we be able to secure this water, we should be able to set our district up into the future to at least 2050. So I feel good about those discussions, but I'll bring back more after we sit down and start discussing the water rights acquisition. I've began discussions with some of the special districts in the area, in the East Kern area. And we're discussing mutual aid and how we can come together and put together a mutual aid agreement to help one another at a time of crisis. The Trona earthquake was an example of how we could use one another to help. So far, the response has been great. They'd like to get together, put together a mutual aid agreement, figure out resources from each agency, what everybody has in the event that they need to borrow it, what possibly our inventories are, what do we carry, how do they match theirs in the event that they need something quickly at a time. So we'll be discussing that. I also brought up, and Director Webb brought to my attention a firm, SOS, that will come to the district and do an analysis of our readiness and our in regard to disaster preparedness with supplies. Are we supplied properly? What do we need? They'll give us a report after they have done it, and they'll do that for free.
Steve, I'm just curious, the surrounding service districts, do they have EOCs in place currently?
No.
They don't?
None of them. None of them do, and the discussion about our EOC will serve us well. And the communications, Brock has attended some meetings recently regarding our communications and our upgrade of those communications, and this is all coming together really well, and how we'll be able to communicate not only with one another, but with other agencies. And at a time of crisis, I know Rick's experienced it, I've experienced it as a deputy sheriff, that when stuff goes down, the biggest thing that you need is communication. And if you can talk, you can get services to the need. And I think that's going to work out really well. They were interested in SOS, wants me to vet them and then send them to them. Others want to be here when they come up and listen to their presentation. Even though they may be assessing our district, they want to see what it's like for theirs. So that's going on. Just a quick note. At the last meeting, the board authorized a $150,000 check to be cut to Burke, Williams, Sorensen for the work they've done on the workout. a check for $10,300 was deposited from US Bank. They came up with not what we wanted, but they came up with $10,300. They tried to make it $5,000, but Brad talked them into the $10,300. So that mitigated that $150, and also deposited $10,340.95 from Union Bank, and that further reduced our obligation. And I think our obligation now is like $129,000. So as soon as those properties sell, we'll receive our reimbursement up front, and then the proceeds after that will go out to them. So now at least we can continue on. And I think that's about all I have for tonight.
Any questions for the general manager? Thank you, Steve. And with that, we'll go to Assistant General Manager update.
So Steve briefly touched base on the new laws and the implications that it will have on our agency. So over the next several weeks, months, possibly a year, we'll be reviewing the new laws, and we'll be reviewing what changes we're going to be required to make to our existing policies. Take them to policy committee as per our meeting next Thursday at 1 o'clock to discuss the first law that's going to take effect come February 1st. Also, I want to remind you that we have a PFAS workshop Thursday, January 16th at 10 a.m. If you haven't accepted that invitation on your calendars, please do so we can confirm who will be in attendance.
Please raise your hand now.
And Vienna will also be approaching you after the meeting to see who will be wanting to attend the Business Outlook Conference. And that's all I have.
What training?
All right, and then we will go to Public Works Manager's update. Rob?
Thank you. As Steve mentioned, yesterday I attended a meeting at Palmdale Water, hosted by Palmdale Water and Applied Technologies Group. Applied Technologies Group is a radio and communications provider based out of Bakrsfield, but they deal with two-way radios and emergency communication systems. The meeting was to discuss potential communications options for various agencies in the Antelope Valley in case of an emergency, and discuss the current communication standards that all of these agencies are using. City of Lancaster, Palmdale City, Palmdale Water District, Portsville Water District, Little Rock Creek Irrigation, and various other agencies were there. And we had a chance to talk about how we would utilize the system in case of an emergency. It was nice to talk to these other agencies because the radio system that we're having installed through Applied Technologies Group that was part of the capital improvement plan meets with every other water agency in the Antelope Valley right now, as well as the Public Water Agencies Group, which is comprised of 21 other public water agencies. So in case of an emergency, we will have the possibility to speak with at least 23 different local water agencies for assistance. The proposal from Applied Technologies Group also included what would you call that? It's a transmitter of sorts that allows communication across various radio communications platforms, but it's an inexpensive option to allow us to communicate with emergency personnel and other cities that are on different communications platforms. So as our two-way radio system is built out, that may be something we bring back to the board in the future if we want to expand our communications. The meeting was followed by a site walk with Applied Technologies Group, and they inspected the site where the repeater will be installed, and they've completed the licensing application for FCC to install our two-way radio system. So upon approval of that application, our two-way radio system will be installed in the district, and we'll start using that for daily communications as well as emergency response and emergency communications. Public Works staff also removed and recently reinstalled the emergency backup generator at Tank Site 4. We had an emergency backup generator there that was installed, and this was a generator that was in stock in the district, and when it was installed, there were problems with the generator. So that was removed. It was taken to the Cummins Service Center in Bakrsfield, and it has since been rebuilt and reinstalled, so we will have redundant power at Tank 4 to serve the east side of town. In case of an emergency, we'll have consistent water pressure and provide water service in case of an emergency. At the last board meeting, the board awarded the contract for the ACP pipeline replacement project to California Compaction Company. We have since held a pre-construction meeting with California Compaction. We've applied for the encroachment permits with Kern County, and we have received and approved all the submittals for the project. So a start date will be awarded or issued once we receive the approved encroachment permit from Kern County. And lastly, since the holiday, Public Works staff has increased their sewer cleaning efforts, and we've cleaned over 12,000 feet of sewer since the holiday break.
What kind of debris did you get out of the line?
In the areas we're cleaning right now, very little. So in a day's worth of work, it's less than half of a 5-gallon bucket full of random grit. Not very much. The majority of the lines are clean. We're completing manhole inspection reports on every manhole, as well as treating with boric acid upon completion. We're working on the west side of town right now. So from the west end of our district, we've made it to 40th Street West. That's all of those lines have been completed.
So would it be safe to say that those lines could probably be candidates for a 3-year rotation?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we have a motion for adjournment.
So we, second.
Motion made by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Washington. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned at 7:21.